Aloha, my name is Kehal Meyer. I'm a director at the Hawaii Community Foundation, and today we're going to be going over part one of the applicant information session for the Maui Strong Fund's Cultural and Historical Preservation and Revitalization RFP. Just some introductions and housekeeping. Just wanted to share that this is a re-recording of the first session or first half of the session from our initial information session we held last week. I just wanted to note that there will be questions available on part two. For today, we'll be going over a brief update of the My Strong Fund in 2026. We'll review the RFP together, and then we'll start the application process, and then you'll be transitioning to part two after that. So it's really important for us to share that we do have a planned spend down this year in these following priority areas. We're really looking at supporting community through an RFP process with these topic areas in mind. And this comes from continued feedback and support coming from community, our nonprofit sector, and just looking at where things and resources are panning out and making sure that we can fill gaps where we can. So this request for proposals was put out just to acknowledge that there is a cultural and historic significance to Lahaina, and we really wanted to make sure that we could capture that eloquently and just really understanding where the community priorities have been through the conversations thus far. We've heard loud and clear that this is a really strong priority area for the community. Lahaina has such cultural and historic foundations, and the losses are so significant, but we wanted to recognize that there are groups doing the work to acknowledge and uphold that historical preservation and even the cultural preservation of the community. And so you'll see here that we've kind of listed the areas that we're really seeking to make sure that we can reach through this opportunity and hopefully find the organizations who are doing this work that we can support. The RFP has some really clear focus areas based on the feedback that we were given. Cultural and historic site preservation is going to include really the restoration, stabilization, and preservation of culturally and historic sites, looking at landscapes and other programs that are not like fully funded or by government or insurance. Looking at cultural practices and perpetuation, understanding that there's many, many cultures that have come through Lahaina in history, and just making sure that we can reach those communities, those groups through meaningful process. Ultimately, what's important is that those who are the cultural practitioners, stewards, keepers of knowledge have opportunities to see themselves in these Maui Strong Fund supported RFPs. Then we have documentation and preservation. I think this one is really special because it considers some of the work that's already going on, thinking about the oral histories, any capturing or documentation of historical records. I think digitization is something that we've been seeing popularized over the last few years and so important as a preservation of materials that could be lost. The community-led planning and stewardship is something that we really want to make sure that there is community-driven planning efforts and community-driven concepts that can be carried forward into the recovery of Lahaina. And we know that there's so many cultures represented here. So it's important that if there is going to be planning, that there's resources available to be as inclusive and comprehensive as possible. And then education and public understanding. It's always important to have opportunities to ground education, interpretation, or even public engagement of the areas of Lahaina that have significant history. And so thinking about the projects that are able to establish those kinds of programs that are taking Lahaina's history and just the significance of what was there, what was lost, and what could be in the future, just to realize that. And then, of course, I'm sure there are folks that are going to be memorializing the experience that we've all gone through with the fires and prioritizing art in public spaces that can collaborate with people in recovery, but also as a community in recovery. And then innovative programs that can support or access historical and cultural resources, thinking about ways that education and public understanding can lend to healing. What's really important is to understand what is out of scope. And so we don't want to be duplicative or replace any government funding, insurance, or any legally required mitigation to certain spaces or places. We're not really looking for programs that aren't actively moving recovery forward for the places that were impacted by the fires or the people in that same vein. And then we're also looking at projects that are not just everyday general operations. These are going to be projects that are unique to the experience of moving recovery forward and not just a continuation of programs that existed already that are existing outside of recovery. We really want to make sure that we can save space for programs that are intentionally working on the historical and cultural preservation and revitalization efforts. And then we have listed kind of some guiding recovery outcomes that we're looking to have program alignments to. And I think you can see here that it really is focused on cementing the cultural identity and historical legacy of Lahaina in a project. And then strengthening the community's ability to lead and to continue that cultural significance that was there. Pre-fires, and that's carried people through the recovery, really. And then just making sure that there's responsible and culturally grounded recovery programs that benefit the present and future generations, right? Just thinking about making sure that it's not just a responsible use of funds, but that the programming itself is thoughtful to the experience of the community that is in recovery and how it's going to help move everybody forward. Significant information here is how our criteria and evaluation scoring will break down. And so you'll see here that the heaviest weight really is on the implementation plan and impact evaluation. But really, take the time to really tell us about your org's recent experience, the capacity of your organization to do this work. It's really important that you're just not starting a program just because it's a good idea, but because it's what you do and what you're good at. The program design, outreach, and timeline is important for us. We'd like more action and less concepts. So when you're building it, be really specific about how your program operates. Is it daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly? How are you reaching your target audience? And is the timeline realistic for what you're trying to get done? Coordination and partnerships is important to us as well. We want to make sure groups are working together, and we want to make sure that there's a lack of duplication in these efforts. So the more you can get together, find good partners, build strong, coordinated efforts. And that includes building like MOUs, MOAs, letters of support, just to really bind your partnership. Believe it or not, we've been in situations where folks are identifying partners and then we go talk to the partner org and they're like, I've never heard of them. So be really careful that if you're writing someone into your program activities as a key partner, really do include a letter of support or commitment from that partner to say that we promise to commit to this activity. Your implementation plan and impact evaluation is really about how are you going to get this work done and how are you tracking that it's going to make a difference, right? How do you know that you're on track? And so being really thoughtful and specific to what success means to you is going to be important. Your budget and program financial sustainability is really valuable to us, right? This is a part of the the fiscal responsibility you have with accepting grant dollars, but we want to make sure that the budget is aligned to the activities. So be really thoughtful about that connecting through line between what activities you're going to be operating and then what kind of funds you're using, right? If you're adding staffing dollars, make sure the staff show up somewhere in the narrative, right? Be really clear about what they're doing. Then your overall alignment and RFP priorities is going to make up that last 5%, just to make sure we're really centering on the purpose of this call for proposals. Their grant award details. This really is identifying, and I know it's really copy pasted into the RFP. So I just wanted to make sure that we could address it here. But if you're going to do a program requests are going to be a ceiling of 250,000, and then capital requests are going to be at 750. Capital requests really are major purchases, but we're not talking about like major construction, right? We're talking about things that are going to help with the development of, the restoration of, and then if you need to make an equipment purchase or something that's more tangible and less operated, right? So like not like a weekly program, but like a one-time purchase, that's where your capital requests are going to come in. Multi-year request, trying not to exceed 3 years. We really want to make sure it makes sense, and then make sure you have planned support for every year that you're requesting. What we really don't like to see is that folks draw it out for 3 years, but year 2 and 3 they couldn't get all the funding, so they have to scale back the program. We really want to make sure you're asking for a program that you can sustain. And then, we know that grant awards are going to vary in size and duration depending on the scope of work. So not every program will be cookie cutter. And then make sure that you're asking for an amount of money that is proportionate to your capacity and experience. What that means is looking at your operating budget and make sure that it's a request that does not, one, exceed your operating budget, but two, that it's not so large that you haven't managed a grant that size before. Make it reasonable and realistic. And then lastly, we do have a maximum cumulative distribution of about $5 million for this one. And so we just wanted to make sure that that was identified. I will also note that there is a list of priority areas in the RFP that I want to bring your attention to. And this particular list, it does include priority preferences. And I wasn't able to really go deeper on this in the last info session, but I felt like it would be a good one to bring up now. So we are trying to give preferences in areas that are really important to community and the foundations of Lahaina's community. And just making sure that we are prioritizing the communities that are present, doing the work already, and that it's appropriate for them to be doing the work. So please consider these priority areas as you are considering your own application focus. The application sections are pretty straightforward. What you see in the RFP is going to be reflected in the application itself on our grant system. Your organization description is really the area where you're going to be able to explain who your org is, how long you've been around, what your expertise is, and then give a little bit of information on your most recent most recent large accomplishments. Your program summary is going to be like an executive summary. It really is going to capture, this is the problem, this is how we're resolving it, this is what we're going to do, this is how we'll measure impact, right? Your problem and opportunity statement is so important. Make sure that you're identifying real issues or real needs in community or real opportunities that are based in some significant form of data. So it could be we had a community conversation and this was the primary feedback. It can be data, demographic data, or other data that was collected. But what we really don't want to see is like, we think that this is a problem, right? We want that problem or opportunity to be founded in something tangible. And finding ways to identify that realistic, like in real life examples, is going to be really helpful to earn points in this area. So identifying the problem, saying 60% of Lahaina survivors um, come from this community, right? And that this community now has lost significant areas of socialization, and we'd like to close that gap, right? So that is based on a fact, a data point, but you don't have to have like a full research dissertation in your narrative about your problem or opportunity statement. Your program activity should be very specific. It should be time bound. So you should be able to tell, like me, okay, we're going to do monthly workshops, we're going to do daily activities, we're going to do these major milestones on a quarterly basis, right? Being really specific about what the activities are that are mitigating the problem or are lending to the opportunity. And then these activities will dive right back into the expected results. How are you measuring progress of these activities to show that you're building that bridge between solving for the problem or creating that opportunity? How do you know it's working, right? And that's what these expected results should show. This next section is the continuation of the application section, including is this an additional grant request for HCF? Is the organization does the organization have capacity to operate this, right? Are there collaborations and partnerships that should be noted? And then you'll have check boxes for areas of disaster approach and population served. For that recovery and stabilization, that's really is your work focused on the recovery and stabilization of a place or the people of a place? Or are you in this rebuilding resilience phase, right? Are you redeveloping infrastructure? Are you stabilizing the future of historical preservation, right? You can pick one, the other, or both. And then the budget document, there is a template available in the applicant resources. We do recommend that you use the template because it's going to be really helpful for us to track your program over time. If you have pretty specific budget items, I would recommend doing an optional budget narrative just to help us understand really carefully how you're getting to these numbers. Thinking about if you put travel, if you're putting staffing, right? Break it down for us to understand how it ties back to the program activities. And then lastly, supporting documents and certifications. You'll definitely have a space to put any reports, any special maps, anything that you think is significant to help understand what's going on in your activity. And then last, there is a required documents section. And then you'll see there, if it's applicable, that's where it'll go. Otherwise, we do really want to see summaries of your recent programming. And if that means it's an annual report, or if you have a one pager, that's really helpful for understanding your expertise. If you have partner letters, that's where they'll go. If you have a map, if that makes sense. And then if you can put together a very quick summary of the key staff or implementation partners and kind of what their role is going to be. I know we have a section earlier that kind of asked the same question, but if you need more space, definitely just reference it as an attachment and then use the attachment section. Okay, this is where I hand it off to someone who is much smarter than me and much more capable of explaining very complicated things to you on our grants portal. So this is for Joy.
Thanks, Kehal. I appreciate that. Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Joy Dewey, and I'm the Grants Administration Officer here at the Hawaii Community Foundation. So I will be walking you through our grants portal where you will be submitting your applications. And I think for the most part, I think a lot of you are already familiar with our grants portal. So this might be already a repeat of what you may have seen or what you already know. But for those of you who are new and are applying to us for the very first time, I'll just be walking you through a quick overview and some navigation of what the portal looks like in terms of the application process. So next slide, please. This is just a screenshot of our login page. If this is your first time, this is the login page. I provided a link in this slide as well. So just wanted to provide you with some resources that we have available for you, first and foremost. So we do have step-by-step application user guides that you can use when you're navigating through the portal, and it'll definitely give you more details into all the steps that I will be showing you today. So please have that. That is available for you to reference. We also have how-to videos. So if you're easier to learn, if you learn better with watching videos, these are available for you as well. And then we do have a support ticket. So whenever you have issues with the portal, if you have any questions, we do have staff on hand that do monitor those tickets daily. So any questions, any tech support that you need, please do send us a support ticket, and that is available on our website. And then I just wanted to point out some quick tips that we most commonly have issues with the portal with our applicants. And I just pointed out three here, these three bullet points here. So the best browser to use for our portal would either be Google Chrome or Microsoft Firefox. So any other browsers, for example, Safari, those tend to have a little bit more issues with the portal. So it's best that you use Chrome and Firefox to access the portal. And then we do want to highlight that your organization profile, which I will walk through later on in the presentation, that you do need to make sure that it's up to date every 6 months. And I will walk you through how that looks like. And then just a little tip about registration and password reset emails. It doesn't take a long time for you to receive those notifications. So if it's taking more than 10 minutes or longer, please do also submit us a support ticket. We want to make sure that the portal is providing you with timely notifications and so that you're getting access to the portal as soon as possible. Next slide, please. So if this is your first time accessing our portal, this is your first time applying, this is sort of the registration process and the three options that you have available when you're first accessing the portal. So the first option is the organization contact. So this option is if your organization already has an existing account in our system, and this will allow you to register as a contact. But please be aware that when you do use this option, that your registration will need to be validated by another existing account holder in your organization account. And then the next option, and this is if you're, again, newer to accessing our portal, is the 501c3 charity option. So this is if you do have a 501c3 and you are a nonprofit organization, this will be the option that you will use to register. And then the last option is the other organization option. And so those of you who are smaller community groups, who are not 501c3, who are using fiscal sponsors, then this will be the option for you when you register. So those are the three options when you first want to log into the portal. Next slide, please. And so once you're all set, you're all logged in, you got your password, you're successfully in the portal. The first thing that we really, really want to highlight, and very, very important in the process, if you're going to take away anything from this presentation, this is the most important piece, is that you must please complete your organization profile and submit everything in there as soon as possible. That's the first step for anything. Even if, please don't, you can open the application and start a draft, but most important, please complete your organization profile. This is the most common maybe admin deny reason that most folks that we get that they do not complete the organization profile. So I'm going to walk you through what that looks like. So first, this is your dashboard. Once you get into your home page, you will click on that organization profile icon there with that little house or Coliseum looking thing. So next slide, please. So once you get to your organization profile, you will have 5 tabs. All required fields will be marked with a red asterisk. So if you don't complete any of the sections with the red asterisk, it will give you an error when you're trying to submit your profile, complete your profile. And the most important thing that I really want to highlight, and I highlighted it in red, is the budget section. Again, if another takeaway, if this anything that you want to take away from this presentation, the budget part is a very important part of your organization profile. So please be sure that you upload your most updated financial documents, as this may result in an administrative deny on your application. So very, very important. We want to reiterate it a lot that your updated financials must be complete and up to date as much as possible. And then for those of you who are smaller group or smaller community group organizations, you're using a fiscal sponsor, we do understand that a lot of the budget requirements that we're asking, like balance sheets or your I forget what the other one is. But if they're not available for you as a smaller community group, we do allow you to submit placeholder documents. So if you need assistance with those, you can reach out to, you can submit a support ticket, of course. You can reach out to K-House. She can show you what sort of placeholder documents you can, thank you, you can submit. So, but because it is a required field in the organization profile, you do have to upload something in there. So for those of you who don't have those financial documents readily available for you, please do reach out so we can assist you with that. Okay, next slide, please. And then for those of you who are using a fiscal sponsor, so of course your fiscal sponsor has to be a 501c3 public charity. They must also have an organization profile. So just like yourself, you register for an organization profile account. Your fiscal sponsor must also have an existing organization profile in the system as well. And in the application itself, it will ask you for a question if you will be using a fiscal sponsor. And then it'll list all the organization accounts that we already have in the system, and you would just have to select it. And if you can't find them in the list, that just means that they're not already in the system. So please do reach out to your fiscal sponsor to make sure that they created an account in the system. So they must also complete, as I showed you earlier with your organization profile, they must also complete all those, the profile with their financials, and then the board list as well. So theirs must also be complete prior to you submitting your application. Very important. It's not after you submit, it's before you submit the application. And then, of course, if you're using a fiscal sponsor, we do have 2 fiscal sponsor documents that you must submit as well. That's the fiscal sponsor agreement and the fiscal sponsor resolution forms. And those are available for you in the portal itself under the resources section of the portal. Next slide, please. And then this is a new step in the process that we recently introduced in July of last year. So moving forward, if you are using a fiscal sponsor, they must certify your application prior to submission. So as a fiscal sponsor, or if you are using a fiscal sponsor, you do need to invite them as a collaborator. And in order for them to certify your application so that they have access to clicking that certification box. And as you can see here, this is a little snapshot of what that certification box looks like in the application. And this is should only be checked off by your fiscal sponsor. And there is, and in the user guide that I referenced earlier, there is further instructions on how you can invite them as a collaborator, as well as how they access your application to click that certification button. And then also with using a fiscal sponsor, they must also maintain an active profile because they also will be required to certify your reporting in any conditions if you get awarded for this grant. Next slide, please. Okay, and so after you've completed your profile, you have all your financial documents up to date and uploaded. Now it's time to create your application, create a draft. So the way to access your application is you go back to your homepage. Again, this is your home dashboard. There is a section, a little icon with a little megaphone there that says Open Funding Opportunities. All you have to do is click on that little icon there. It will show you all of our existing open funding opportunities. And then you'll look for the cultural and historical preservation or revitalization FO. It will provide you, as you can see on the screenshot below, you can download the guidelines directly from that link. And then right next to that download button is the apply button. And so you click that apply button to begin your application. And the next slide, please. And then just like Keha mentioned with her, how the application tabs in the portal, just reiterating, there are 4 tabs: program overview, information, the budget, and the supporting documents. All of the fields will be marked with a red asterisk as well. So if you do not complete those required fields, you will get a trigger and an error message saying that you need to go back in and complete them. You can always find your drafts in your My Application Tracker under your homepage. And all upload fields, so the budget and the supporting documents section, all upload fields will require a PDF document format only. There will be some formatting that you will have to do on your end if you're trying to upload an Excel that's really large. So make sure that it's formatted correctly. And if it's not formatted correctly and you're missing some information, it may result in an incomplete application and we may deny you. So make sure that you're providing us all that information when you're redrafting or reformatting your documents. And then we do, as Keha mentioned, there are sample budgets and work plan templates that are available to you as well as the fiscal sponsor forms that are located in the applicant resources section of the portal. Next slide, please. And so with that, you've completed your organization profile, you've filled out all of your fiscal sponsor required forms. They've also submitted their profile. You've completed all the required fields in the application, and now all you have to do is click that submit button. Once you click that submit button, it's very important that you do receive this notification and that you also receive an email notification from the portal. We have had instances where some folks did not receive the email notification and they thought that they submitted the application and they did not. So please be sure that you're always aware that you're receiving the notifications in a timely manner. And if you if you don't receive them, please do submit a support ticket. And with that, that's sort of like the quick overview of how to walk through and navigate through the system, how to complete your org profile, and how to submit the application. And again, if you do run into any issues, tech support, if you have any further questions in regards to the FO, contact Keha. If you have questions on tech issues with the portal, please do submit a support ticket, and we do have on staff on hand to respond to you in a timely manner. So thank you, everybody. If you have any questions, please let me know. I think there were some on the chat already that I can look through.
Thank you, Joy. That was great. I just wanted to note that you have to press save pretty regularly because our system doesn't autosave yet. So please do us the favor, do yourself the favor, write a comment, press save, right? Be really, really mindful. I know it says our system is smart, simple, sometimes not so smart, sometimes not so simple. But we're getting through it and we're here to help. So thank you. I think on the next slide, it says that we're open for questions. Yeah, okay. So if you have any questions, I'm going to stay here. If you don't, you can have a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. We'll hang out for a little bit and we'll be available as needed. So mahalo, mahalo, mahalo for all you guys do.
If no one has questions, I have a question.
Yeah, go for it. Give me.
Yeah. I was gonna wait to see if it's like too specific, but maybe it's helpful for other folks on the call. So I know, first of all, hi, how are you?
Hi, Annie.
Um, I know you all were talking about like really looking at what the funds are intended to do, and you talked about not covering like general operations or things that we are already doing. So if we are a disaster relief organization and everything that we do um, is disaster relief focused. Is that okay if it's something, like Roots Reborn specifically, we started after the fires, and so if we're asking, um, I don't know. I'm really excited to kind of do some brainstorming and think about like what we can do, but one of the things that I was thinking is like our Dia de los Muertos event, right? That's like cultural preservation and also pushing forward the healing of the entire community and educating like why we celebrate Day of the Dead. And you don't have to be Mexican to celebrate it and to honor your loved ones who have passed. So it's like I just want to make sure that that wouldn't be off base because it's like yes, we are actively doing it. It would just be to cover yeah. So just kind of wanted to talk through where that line.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really comes down to the history of that community in Lahaina and if they
Mhm.
had cultural significance pre-fires and that this is a part of the rebuilding and
Sure.
revitalization of the community in their healing, like then if you can justify that, then sure, you can focus on it. Now, I think we expect to see things that are gonna be like, this specific thing was lost, and this is how we're
Sure.
gonna bring it back or continue the perpetuation of it, right? So there are going to be
Mhm.
some cultural and historical practices that might be a stronger fit. And you just have to
100%.
remember that you're going to be you're going to be graded separately, but also in the peer review discussions, you're going to be compared,
Yeah.
project to
Yeah.
project. So
And I think that's what feels really important is like understanding the the cultural and historical loss that happened of like Native
yeah,
Hawaiian culture. It's like, yeah, there were Mexicans in Lahaina before, but like our loss is not the same loss.
yeah.
And I know I'm speaking like very candidly in front of people that I've never met before, but hi, I'm Annie.
Mhm.
And so I just want to make sure, like, if, you know, we're not dipping into a pot that really like should be for a different, just different use. So this
And
is
what
really
I'll say
helpful.
is, yeah, like we're expecting, like we know like 40% of the survivor population is Filipino. We're
Hmm.
expecting to see recognition of that. We're expecting to see recognition of the historical impact of Hawaiian community. We're
Totally.
expecting to see historical related loss and
Hmm.
so whether it's places of worship that were lost, I think we're expecting to see those guys come through.
Yeah.
But also like there's an education and public understanding section that could be a fit, right? Like
Hmm.
memorializing the community that was impacted. Like you said, the Mexican community was impacted. How do you recognize them, right? And it doesn't have to be as large and huge as like a mural, right? Maybe
Hmm.
I think some folks are going to come through and say we're going to track the history of the recovery. We're going to
Yeah.
document all these major points of the recovery. And some people might just say, hey, we want to recognize um, the plantation population that lived in this specific community, and we're going to do a storybook or storytelling, right? And so it's going to look and feel different. We're not the subject matter experts to say this is yes and this is no. It really comes down to, does your community support this? Do you think it's appropriate use of recovery dollars, right? And is
Yeah.
it going to do or lend to this recovery journey that Lahaina is on, right? We're looking for the community to tell us what the priorities are.
Yeah.
We will only fund it if it has justification and the might of real support, right? Because at the end of the
Totally.
day, it matters to us that the community is okay with how these funds are used. It's really
Sure.
important. So, coming from that point, I cannot tell you yes or no, but I will
Yeah.
tell you if you submit something, I would hope that you have immense community support behind it. And however
Totally.
that looks is up to you because you're the expert of the community you've been working with.
Yeah.
But it cannot just be, we want to do this event because we've been doing these events, right? It's
Right.
got to be much deeper than that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And definitely, yeah, that's also like that's really helpful feedback because to me, I'm like, yeah, like the first Day of the Dead that we did was really in honor of the lives that were lost, right? Like, of course, then you celebrate everyone else, but that was kind of like the focus. So yeah, this is super helpful. Thanks for kind of talking through it. And thanks
But
for
go to
everyone
your,
else.
and I think you brainstorm with your community and you see
Yeah,
what, then read it and see what resonates. Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Aloha, my name is Mary Kinmiya Danico. I'm at the Center for Oral History, and I just
Oh,
wanted to thank all of you for including oral history in the call. We were really excited to see that, and we've been working with folks in on Maui and Lahaina, especially after the fire, and lost major grants, as you all probably know of a lot of the different things
yes.
that we're doing. So yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. I know nothing is a for sure thing, but we're just really excited to see this call and. Um, and the email was sent to me by someone from your group, I think. So thank you so much. I just wanted to stay on and show
Yeah.
my mahalo to all of you and appreciation and saw a lot of familiar community partners on online today. So it was really nice to see them and we're chatting on the sign, say, oh, you're here. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. And we're really lucky. We have an arts and culture sector team, and we invited them to participate in not only the build out of the scope of work, but also in who we should be inviting and extending invitations to. I know it's going out publicly and anyone can look at it, but
Right.
they curated a list of folks that have been, um, people they've met and learned from and know are in active programming. But again, that's also not fully extensive and comprehensive. So we rely on folks like yourself and others who may be knowing other groups doing similar work, and we just hope that it gets out to the community that this fits. So we appreciate your appreciation of that, but we really wanted to make sure that we captured some of the parts of histories and historic preservation that I think is not often captured in most recovery journeys. So
Yeah.
thank you.
For sure. And just a little side idea that my associate director and he was on earlier and he left early, but one of the things that we're hoping to do is also because all of our researches and oral histories are in collaboration, if not guided by community partners and the kapunas and elders who kind of share with us, the things that they would like to see. But one of the areas that we are hoping to engage is we did oral history with Lahaina Luna, Native Hawaiian Borders, and the school. And so we spoke with the librarian. We're hoping that the director who comes in on Monday will be able to talk to them because we want to really get the intergenerational impact. We don't want to be the only ones doing oral history. We really want to be able to help people do oral history too. And so the component of our proposal will be us doing this, but also training and providing workshops and mentorships for folks to do that as well. And I hope that's in line because I think
Yeah.
there's just so many stories and it's just not enough of us. So if
Yeah.
more of us can do it, then at the university, and whatever Lahaina base or Maui base orgs, if they have the capacity to preserve and archive it, but I already talked to the library on our campus to be able to archive the transcript
Yeah.
here because that's
I
a
mean,
big,
yeah, we need a landing place for things. So
yeah.
I will point you to the priority consideration section of the RFP and just
Mhm.
really, I think that might answer a lot of questions.
Right.
In general, I think that even just a storage plan for where all
Mhm.
these projects live in perpetuity would be
Mhm.
a project in and of itself too, right? Like it
Yeah.
sounds like that could be something someone could apply for too. So I appreciate that commentary. Thank you.
Thank you and have a wonderful weekend.
Hi, my name is Kimmy Lee, and I'm a writer, director, producer for a short film called Wishful Thinking. It is set during the Maui fire. I'll explain that in my application, but I don't know how to begin to ask my question. But first, I want to thank you guys for letting art in this as well to apply for this grant. Looking forward to it. I guess my main question is, so when well, I'm applying for a feature film because I already did the short, and I've met so many great people in Maui, Lahaina especially, and I learned so much of how the day after it happened, how people community come together and support each other, and there was no FEMA, no government was there. It was just the community, and how heartful and thoughtful I feel, and all these heroic stories too that I've heard. So I want to make this into a feature film and preserve all of the stuff that happened that people don't hear about, or heroes that are too humble to tell it. And so what I did was, I also, on the side, parallel to shooting my short, I also had someone do like a documentary style interviews with these people that were involved in volunteering, and telling their heroic story. So I guess my main question to you right now, and I have many, but like, what to apply, like, to make this, I want to make this into a feature, but I also want still do the documentary side of it. Should I can I mean, do I put it all in one? I think 250 is not enough, but I mean, it would be great to start with the feature. Um, but should I put that documentary coincide with this application? And then obviously ask for another grant somewhere else for like the second year or whatever. But that is my main question right now, is like, yeah, I want to get it all. I want to document everything that happened. It was just so touching, and then I want to continue telling more truthful stories, and having a documenting, just doing the interview itself. I learn a lot just from their
Mhm.
interview stuff. So my question is, how can I submit this? Like, can I do it together, or should I do it separately, or how does that all work?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're welcome to submit it comprehensively, but it's up to you to make it very clear and concise and what your ideal outcomes are, right? So if you have a two-prong approach, you have to really show us that, one, you can get all of that work done in the time frame that you're proposing, and two, if they are together, are they going to be released together? Are they two separate products, right? Are they two different messages?
Yeah.
If they're very separate in nature of like being separate products, it might be worth focusing on one. I do think what I've seen before is orgs come in and they put four different programs in one application, and it's hard to understand what success would look like because you've put so much in there. I think it's easier for a reviewer to understand what's the problem you're addressing, what's the activity that's going to, mitigate the problem, what's the outcome of the activity, and did you address the problem, right? And I think once you add more variables in, it can get confusing if you don't have a very clear way of explaining it. So I would leave that to you. You decide what's the most important use of these funds for what you want to accomplish. But I would also connect with the community, because the community can tell you, hey, why are you spending money on this? We don't want this right now. But if they want both, then it's, again, I'm not going to give you the answer, but I will just tell you, the more information you give, sometimes the less clear the ask is, right?
Mm.
So be super hyper focused and be very clear about what success is. Or you can submit the whole package, but you just have to take the risk that, an evaluator may not get it the way it makes sense for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I I hope that's helpful.
Well, yeah, I have been talking to the community and quite a lot. I mean, they very supportive of the film for sure.
Perfect.
I guess it's more popular when film than documentary. So and a lot of them volunteer for my background as in my short, and and they're in it. So I just love that fact as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, and they love being interviews too, like just to
Yeah.
tell their stories. So yeah, so for the short, yeah, I think I'm planning to put it together, but we'll see how HIF, because HIF is my fiscal sponsor.
Yep.
Uh, so hopefully we can make that into a long. That was my plan, but for the feature length, of course, obviously I can't put that in there, but the documentary in there, so it will have to be a separate entity. So yeah, I think you gave me a my decision. Yeah, I'll just focus on the future and still do the documentary on the side, but more of a side project and focus more on the future. Yeah. So thank you so much for that. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I think we're at
Yeah.
time, but I just want to thank you again for joining us, for having your questions. Please feel free to email me anytime if you have another one come to you over the weekend or next week. But appreciate everything that you've done for this community's recovery. And I just want to have, it's an honor and it's always humbling to work on the My Strong Fund. So thank you guys for participating in this recovery journey with all of us. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you guys. Have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. And thanks again. I was just writing it out, but this is really like such a cool and unique recovery grant. And like, obviously, we're not in the arts, but to know like the little things that can be captured because of funding like this is like really like emotional to think about what will happen because of this. So thank you guys for that. And
Mahalo,
my
Emmy.
Friday feels apparently as I'm like, but this is really cool. So congratulations. This is huge.
Mahalo.
Awesome. All right. And thank you all for all you do. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.